Hello and welcome to another Bellevue Downtown Talks. We're privileged today to be here with Molly Moon Neitzel here at Molly Moon's in downtown Bellevue. Welcome, Molly.
Thanks for having me, or thanks for being here.
Absolutely. So before we get to the conversation, I would like to thank our partners and sponsors for Downtown Talks. They are Amazon, Heritage Bank, Kaiser Permanente, Puget Sound Energy, and Vulcan Real Estate. We appreciate your support. All right, Molly, we're ready to talk a little bit more about your business and its evolution and growth over time. But I want to start by, if you could take us back into your past and really the genesis for your thoughts about entrepreneurship and getting the business started. Tell us a little bit more about how it all got going.
Well, really my entrepreneurial spirit started very young. I was raised with grandparents who owned a hotel and then like an old-timey saloon. And they took care of me a lot when I was a kid. So I grew up like sweeping the floor of the saloon, picking up pennies and rolling them into penny rolls, learning how to, watching my grandma do the books, watching my grandpa set up for the next day. And so I have a little bit of just small business owner in my blood. And never thought I wanted to open a small business as a kid, but after I had run a political nonprofit for most of my 20s, I got pretty burnt out on that. And I was whining and complaining to my mom one night on the phone about what I was going to do with my life. And she said, Molly, you want to be your own boss. You have these political convictions that are really serious. Doesn't seem super compatible to go get another job. Why don't you know how to run an ice cream shop because you worked at an ice cream shop in college. Why don't you just be a small business owner and like try and do it on your own and put all your politics in your business? And that was a great suggestion. Moms know us so well. And so in 2007, I started working on a business plan for an ice cream shop that would use all compostable things, buy local ingredients, pay a living wage, and provide free health insurance. Those were sort of my goals. And be a multi-generational community gathering place in Seattle for, kids who love ice cream, but also I was really looking for a place to like go on a date. And there weren't a lot of places to go get dessert in 2006, 2007 in Seattle. And that's what I wanted a boy to do with me. I wanted him to take me to an ice cream shop. And so I just sort of started planning my dream place, and it all came together.
What has surprised you, or what have you learned about bringing your values and your viewpoints of how you would like a small business run in its relationship to the community? What has surprised you in that process?
I think from the very beginning of Molly Moon's, I opened my first shop in Wallingford in 2008. I was surprised by how much me putting my values out front resonated with my community. A lot of people cautioned me against it, like don't mix your politics and business, don't be too loud about your beliefs. But from the beginning, I was really pretty forward about my values, and I honestly think that's a huge part of why Molly Moon's has been so successful from the beginning, is people wanted to see a place that, paid their workers fairly and bought from local farms and purveyors and provided health insurance and sick days. And I think I've gotten a ton of community support over the years that I didn't expect for sort of like making ice cream political.
Yeah, so I'll speak for the unnamed small business owner who may look at that approach as being too expensive, too hard to pull off, especially when you're trying to get something going as something like a small business. So what would you say to that small business owner about putting those values forward, especially the ones that have a price tag attached to them?
Yeah. Well, looking back, I've done it a couple ways. Like I started my business with some expensive things like free health insurance for anyone who worked 18 hours or more or 20 hours or more. And that I would say is in some ways easier because you just build it into the business plan, you build it into your pricing model, you build it into your marketing, and it all goes together and you launch your company that way. So that really worked for me to just, and I don't want to be cheap ice cream, honestly. Like I pay a lot for our ingredients. They're the most premium ingredients. I pay my people well. And I always want to be like the second most expensive ice cream in the market. And I think if you want to have like the cheapest sandwich shop on the street, then it would be harder to put some of the things you believe in into your business model. So it's a choice, it's a trade-off. And then the other way I've done it is like, had to increase expenses because of a value. Like over time, I started my business when I was pretty young and child-free and unmarried. And over time, I came to realize how important paid family leave is. So we created a generous paid family leave policy. And that is the kind of thing you have to add in, and you have to ask yourself, okay, where are these expenses going to come from? And it means tweaking your business model. And I have a great mentor that I met in my political life who always says, look for ways to increase sales, not just cut expenses, because there's an end to cutting expenses that looks very bad, but there's like no end to increasing sales. So usually when I've had to add something to the business model that's going to be expensive but is values aligned, I really try to think about how can we increase sales at the same time? How can we market that we're doing this? Maybe we have to increase prices. Maybe we should tell our customers why we're increasing prices right now. And it's all kind of worked out for us.
So you mentioned where you were in life before you started and then where you are now. And there's, maybe it's overplayed, but this notion of balance and between life and business and family, entrepreneurship, coming up with the ideas to increase sales. How do you do it? How have you, I guess, brought yourself around to finding balance, and if there even is balance? But share with us a little more about how you find balance in your life between running a small business, working with your family and the community.
Yeah. I mean, I think balance is so hard. And for me, balance feels like I'm standing on the top of a really tall seesaw, and it's like my family needs a lot from me right now. I have a 3-year-old and an 8-year-old, and there are some challenging things going on with my girls. And my husband is also a small business owner and an entrepreneur who thankfully has a flexible schedule. So that's really helped us out, especially during the pandemic. And then, one wonderful thing about being an entrepreneur is it's not that you work less, because you don't, but you can be more flexible about when you work and how you work. And so I think I'm kind of making it all work by quite a crazy Tetris puzzle of, my husband and I juggle when we're responsible for kids and dinner and home tasks in a little bit of a non-traditional way. And then I work at funny times. Like sometimes I do a lot in the middle of the night, and sometimes I sneak in stuff during my 3-year-old's naps on the weekends. And then the other thing that makes it all work is my company is 13 years old, and I've had the benefit of growing a team that is very specialized and extremely capable at what they do. Like my director of finance and HR is like half my brain at this point. I couldn't really do what we do without her work and her, she anticipates our company's needs almost better than I do, and definitely way better than I do in a lot of areas. And our director of operations is incredible. And, I have this awesome assistant, and my marketing team is really strong and has figured out over the years, like what marketing stuff just feels good and looks good versus what actually works. And that's been a little bit of a surprise. So I think I just balance it by a lot of flexibility and awesome teamwork.
And then you put COVID-19 and its impacts on all of our lives, your team's lives, the economy, all the questions that have come up for everyone. take us back. How did you triage the first, when you first realized what the impacts would be to the community and your business, and really for you and your team, how have you made it through the pandemic so far?
I can't really articulate how difficult it has been,
Mhm.
even for a company that has a lot going for it. But last March, I think I saw the pandemic coming a little earlier than a lot of small business owners. On March 2nd last year, I was writing lobbying emails to like 40 elected officials saying, you're going to need to increase unemployment. You're going to need to provide rent relief to small business owners. You have to provide B&O tax relief. Like, this is not going to be okay. Because I saw on a sunny weekend at the end of February and March 1st, my sales drop dramatically, 15% over the previous year. And that doesn't happen in my company on a sunny weekend. It should have been the opposite. And I knew from 3 days of sales numbers that we were in really serious trouble. So by March 16th, I had laid off 96 people, including my dad. All that was left in my company by mid-March was my director of finance and HR, myself, and I stopped paying myself for several months, and 5 chefs. And we went to grocery stores and said, can you please carry our pints at PCC and at Metropolitan Markets? And those 2 local grocery partners absolutely saved my company for the spring. And then we also could not have survived without the CARES Act and the stimulus bill that was passed in December. Both rounds of PPP we have totally utilized. And without without the first round, we wouldn't have made it through 2020. And without the second round, I would be in a $750,000 hole this year. So it's devastating.
Mm-hmm.
This pandemic has been absolutely devastating to small business and to my employees. But I'm really proud of that we've had the wherewithal to navigate all of the stimulus and take advantage of all of it. And it's heartbreaking to talk to small business owners who are not taking advantage of the employee retention tax credits. They're not filing for PPP round 2 because they're not sure if it applies to them. And I think I just would encourage every small business owner to go make sure that you're taking advantage of every single piece of all of the government stimulus, because there's a lot out there to help us get through. And then I'm also just really super, super proud of my team. So I've been able to hire back everybody that we laid off last year, except one person who went on to start his own small business. And they have the Moon Crew, as we call them, have been so supportive of what we're trying to do here, of continuing to bring joy and treats and happiness to people as we get through the pandemic. And they've really not only taken care of our customers very well, but they've taken care of each other. And we've had 0 COVID transmission at Molly Moon's this whole year. And we're really, really proud of that. And we can't wait to get the Moon Crew vaccinated. And we're going to be okay. But, I can't articulate how hard it's been.
Yeah.
I just tried for a long time, but.
Yeah. So it was shifting gears a little bit and talking about your expansion and pre-COVID, obviously, but it was very exciting for, I know, Redmond when the Redmond location opened up, and then really exciting here in Bellevue and in downtown Bellevue when the walk-up scoop shop opened up across from Downtown Park, just around the corner. It was great when we brought our team down to enjoy our first scoops here in downtown Bellevue, and then this shop opened, this flagship shop in Old Bellevue. So tell us a little more about what inspired you to expand here in Bellevue and what some of your observations are as you grow your small business here.
Yeah, Bellevue has been a really awesome learning experience for me. I didn't really know very much about the East Side. I moved to Seattle in 2001, and before I opened the Bellevue Walk Up, I had probably been in Bellevue less than 5 times in like 20 years of living here. Um, but we opened the Walk Up, and that was a really fun project. My dad built that shop in 40 days, and it was so fun to bring my kids to Inspiration Playground, which is the best playground we've ever been to. And I just liked the vibe of old downtown Bellevue a lot, and started to, chit chat with the small business owners here, and loved the neighborhood. And then I was blown away by the business at the Walk Up. It was just crazy. And we were doing sales numbers here that were similar to our big shop in Redmond. And Redmond is our top sales shop in the company. So it was not sustainable to do that amount of sales out of a tiny Walk Up that we were having to deliver ice cream to all the time. So I immediately started looking for a larger shop where we could make ice cream in Bellevue. And I would walk by this space a lot because it was empty for a long time. And I was like, there's no way I can do this. It's way too big. But at the same time, we were having conversations in my company about expanding our wholesale program. And this was way pre-pandemic. But we were like, what if we put pints in grocery stores? Maybe that should be like a way that we diversify. So we were just starting to talk about it, and we looked at this space, and it's got this big parking garage and loading dock, and this alley is really convenient. And we just started dreaming a little bit like, wow, what if we didn't take just a small space in Bellevue, but we really created like a Bellevue flagship? And I couldn't resist the light in this shop, and it's so beautiful. And I just kept dreaming, and I decided to go for it. And I don't know if I believe everything happens for a reason, but we were, locked in on this lease halfway through construction when the pandemic hit. So we just had to keep moving forward and open this shop, even though I had no idea how I was going to pay for the rest of the construction. I had no idea if sales were going to be okay. But this location has actually enabled us to go from being in like 40 grocery stores to being in 120 grocery stores. We make most of our wholesale product here in Bellevue. And that has really helped us diversify and get through 2020. And it's going to be a great way for us to sort of come back from the pandemic too.
Yeah, and hopefully the timing works out for the summer, and more people, more foot traffic coming to the park, and then coming to Molly Moon's for ice cream.
Yep, totally.
So what's your vision for the future of Molly Moon's? If you can, whatever you can share with us about where you see the company headed.
Yeah. My vision is kind of boring because it hasn't really changed in 13 years. I just want to put multi-generational community gathering places filled with like happiness and sweets in neighborhoods that need them. So I'm just going to keep doing that. Like I do like our wholesale program, and I like that you can get our product and support our team in the grocery stores. But what really makes me so happy and feel fulfilled and like I'm doing what I'm supposed to do here on earth is putting ice cream shops in neighborhoods and like creating that opportunity to take your family to ice cream, to meet grandma and grandpa, to go on a sweet date. Like, I love being a part of the fabric of all the little business districts and all the little neighborhoods in our region. And there are a lot of neighborhoods that don't have a Molly Moon's yet.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for being a part of this community and for inspiring ice cream lovers all over to visit here in downtown Bellevue. Before we wrap up, is there anything you'd like to share with our audience? Words of inspiration.
Yeah, I think 2021 is going to be a really important reset year for our region. And I just hope that everyone in Bellevue really thinks about how they can make the world a better place. Like, that's what we do at Molly Moons every day. And I think there's a lot of privilege in Bellevue, and there's a lot of opportunity for folks in Bellevue to make the world better, and not just make themselves happier and more fulfilled. I would love to see Bellevue become like the most generous city in the region.
Molly, thank you. Thank you for joining us and for sharing those words with us. To everyone, thank you for joining us for another Bellevue Downtown Talks. Please stay tuned for our next episode. Keep an eye out on our website and have a great rest of the day, Bellevue.